Whenever they want to deceive you about what the ancient Egyptians look like, they always bring a CGI image which almost looks like the ancient Egyptian. The funny part is, in this image, they couldn't even commit to having the image have the same full lips that the real statue has. As you can see, the bottom lip is big, and this is very common for that region, the Middle East. They have a bigger lower lip and a smaller upper lip, as a lot of statues I've seen from the Middle East. But do not be afraid, because I have plenty of evidence here that will show you that this worthless trope will not go over my head or anybody else who is perceptive. Speaking of AI, let's look at the Tutankhamun monstrosity. First of all, as you can see, the skin of Tutankhamun has been extremely lightened up. And the reason for this, of course, is because this AI was built by a French company, which makes sense. They need everybody to be French in ancient Egypt. But here's what's even worse. The AI in this area looks nothing like the statues that already exist. This is like the worst reconstruction. Imagine being given starting material. You're given starting material and they just go in their own direction and recreate a person from whatever they want to do. And you will notice that they do this a lot. And so anybody who's out there thinking that, oh, these are just mistakes, these are people, they're not trying to deceive you on purpose, this is called purposeful deception. Now, let me show you actual artistic depictions of Middle Easterners. And as you can see, there's nothing vague about them. They almost look so stereotypically like people from that era that if they were made today, they would be considered racist. And you notice that as well about the ancient Egyptian or the Greek statues. These people use general stereotypes of features which were consistently shown in these people from all over the world. And of course, people from the Middle East tend to have long hair and big beards. And you see that consistently throughout the history of the Middle East. I'm talking about from the Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Middle Eastern times, the Islamic era, the Persians. Even today, that depiction is still known. Now, obviously, I'm not saying people can't just shave their faces, but when they did they end up looking like the ancient Egyptians? Did they end up looking like Rahotep? Did they end up looking like the rest of the ancient Egyptians in any way, shape, or form? The answer is absolutely not. And like I said, there's this thing where people from the Middle East have a bigger lower lip, and this is true sometimes of some Europeans as well. But the problem is when it comes to the upper lip, and if you notice in African individuals, the upper lip sometimes can be larger than the lower lip. And this feature is undeniable in some of the statues in ancient Egypt. I want to further illustrate this point that these people are not merely missing these statues and going, oh, that doesn't look like this or this doesn't look like that. I want to show you that these statues, they know exist and they're ignoring them. And I will show you by playing a video that I've already played on my channel, but I'll only play a small part of it. So the first guy from this clip is actually physically blind. He's not literally blind, but he must be for him to actually upload this video. The funny part about this is there's actually no similarity whatsoever. If you notice, his nose goes deeper, closer to his eyes. The lips are the most funny part. I remember laughing watching this video, being like, is this guy being dead serious? He legitimately looked at these and went, yep, that's depicting the same thing. But let's compare him to a previous statue that I uploaded and let's see if we can see any similarities. Now, isn't that a more accurate depiction? Doesn't that look like it's more in place? Why are we playing games, people? Why are we letting them get away with this? Somebody needs to take these pictures and put it straight in their face and say, tell me that doesn't look like what it looks like to me. Am I the only person? Am I just delusional? Do these people not look exactly the same? And then they look completely different to the Egyptians? Almost as if like they have no idea that literally these statues are screaming at them going, no, I look like this. And they're going, nah, nah, nah.
This is part 2 showing you how Africans were represented in ancient Egypt. I study Egyptology and Egyptian history. You can notice the nose, the mouth, how completely different they were from Egyptians. Look at the clothes. Imagine how the great king Ramses II looked like. This is how he looked like. Look at him.
Actually, this is what he looked like. And the funny part is she uses a mummy, which was altered after the death of the person. But even still, if you look at the original statue that I've put besides it of Ramses II, it's pretty obvious that this person was like had African phenotype. By the way, this woman said she studies Egyptology. She's not unaware of the statue. She Googled it, looked it up, and went, holy crap, and chose to go with the mummy. You know how I know this? Because the rest of the video she goes with statues.
This is an Egyptian face.
As you will see in the next part. But like I said, these people, sometimes they're not doing it by mistake. It's all on purpose. This person is deliberately avoiding using the statue because she took one look at it and she was like, holy crap.
Egyptian woman. This couple is really famous and they are currently in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. You can notice the difference in skin color from the male and the female.
Yep, that's right. Back to this image again. And like I said, because it supports her point, she's going to bring up the statues instead of bringing up some mummies. She's like, oh no, look at the statues. It's like, why didn't you bring up the statue of Ramses? What was it about the way that statue looked that turned you off? And of course, again, we're going to do a quick debunking of these statues, of the idea that they look like what she thinks they look like. The funny part is, I've said many times, there are some bronze statues in Greece, and if I wanted to be deceptive, I'd find them and go, look, black people, the phenotype of these things are not what they look like, and you will see.
Look at her. Look at her skin color. Look at her face. And in ancient Egypt, they always made sure to represent the male more tanned than the woman because men used to work. So this is why he is tanned and she is not. She didn't work, she stayed at home, so that's why her skin color is pale. And that's why he is more tan.
Is this what ancient Egyptians look like? This picture is usually used by people to argue that all Egyptians look like this. But if you zoom in and take a look, you will find the truth, that African features are a perfect match. Look at the size of those lips, look at the shape. These are all the ancient Egyptian queens I could find. Decide for yourself, but clearly light skin is an exception. People say the ancient Egyptian women are light-skinned because they don't work outside. Well, what about these women?
This is Queen Nefertari. This is Queen Nefertari. This is Queen Nefertari. This is Queen Nefertari.
This is where I would get confused again. Didn't she say that the ancient Egyptian women stay indoors and so their skin is light? And now she brings up Queen Nefertari, whose skin is as dark as hell. How can you debunk yourself in the same like 30 seconds. And she's supposed to be an Egyptologist. And also keep in mind, Queen Nefertari is a queen. So if anybody's not going to work outside, it's going to be her. And also, the ancient Egyptians, the queens, they used to walk outside with umbrellas, which were provided by, their servants. So they really were avoidant of the sun. For her to be that dark skinned, what do you think it takes? Why is she contradicting herself and saying that, oh, this is Nefertari, and she shows a dark skinned woman? What's the point of that? And this is why I tell you people, this depiction of light skin is a figurative thing. It's an expressive thing. It's not, oh, that's a yellow bone. That's not a yellow bone. You see that color? That person is white skinned. That's a religious thing. That's not a physical thing. Like I showed you, when you zoom into the face, the person still looks black African. For the people who say this statue's fake, it's not fake. That statue is as real as it gets. And saying that it's fake just makes you look like you're trying your best to whatever. If you want a fake statue, try that Nefertiti one.
This is Queen Nefertari, King Seti the First.
That switcheroo's not going to work on me. She goes back to a mummy instead of using the actual image, because if you look directly at the image, you can tell that it's more of an African person. So she goes, oops, wrong one. Again, she does it. With Nefertari, she was trying to get away with the fact that the brown is sort of inlaid in a weird way. With this one, she's like, hell no. I ain't showing that. I'm going to show bones.
And look at the jewelry they used to wear. Look at the necklace. Amazing.
Again, she makes a foolish mistake. She tries to talk about the gold as a sidestep, but if you notice, she put in Nefertiti in the background, and Nefertiti is brown skin. You notice how all the ones that she could point at, she could only point at one, and I mean one female that was light skinned, and every other one was dark skinned. People, come on. Everybody needs to wake up and smell the coffee. Look at this. Look at all of this. This is like somebody who's sat down, made a video to try and debunk the Black African theory. You look at it, and straight away she's failing on all counts. I can't even watch this video for like 5 seconds until she said something that's completely contradictory. By the way, you're gonna ask yourself, so why is she doing this? This is the type of confidence that all of the people who do this have. They go, well, the experts agree with me, so it must be exactly the same. Then you show them this and they go, wait a minute now, wait, pause. Everything. That's why, again, I'm going to say it, everybody needs to go watch that video I made that compares African languages to the Afro-Asiatic languages. When these experts say a lot of these things, they purposefully ignore similarities. Everybody needs to see those videos because they ignore similarities. And the reason they do it is because they've already got this perception in their head that they're dealing with a Middle Eastern civilization. And so even when things right before their very eyes don't look consistent, they dismiss it and go, yeah, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Look at it. What the hell? And the worst part is they're like, oh, how come you guys keep asking questions? We're asking questions because it's so easy to. We're asking questions because there's like a large gap where you guys are not even participating a little bit. You're ignoring it and going to basically ridiculous points that have nothing to do with anything. There are actually a number of ancient kingdoms in the Middle East, and they share a history in common. You can actually see by looking at their art and looking at their writing system and looking at all that stuff that these people come from the same place. For example, the Akkadians, the Sumerians, the Persians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Hittites, the Phoenicians, the Urartians or Urartians, as someone told me that's how you pronounce it. They don't have this thing of looking different from one another. But here's the thing, people claim that the Egyptians come from these people. Okay, so why is it consistent within these kingdoms and then Egypt looks nothing like them? I mean, think about it. This is what an Assyrian looks like. This is what a Babylonian looks like. This is what a Hittitan looks like. This is what a Phoenician looks like. This is what an Urartian looks like. This is what an Akkadian looks like, and this is what a Sumerian looks like. The consistency is, it doesn't even play with you. But if you look at Egypt, for some reason, it's completely different. And again, I'm not denying that you can simply just shave your hair if you want to. But the ancients were very taken by depicting this physical appearance. And of course, once they shave, they still maintain Middle Eastern appearance. But to further illustrate this point, look at how the ancient Egyptians depict the Syrians and all these other people from the Middle East. The look is consistent. You know what's not consistent? That look with the Egyptians. You don't even see it once. You would think that if they were the same people, at one point the Egyptians would go, hey, that guy's got a beard. Let's draw him with a beard. There are depictions of Egyptians with beards, but they look like they grow the way that black beards grow. Very tiny compared to the Middle Easterns. And the funny part is, they know this. Everybody knows this. Everyone can see it. So what's going on? Why is it that the ancient Egyptians look nothing like the Middle Easterners, but everybody wants to put them in that box? But before we go there, let's first focus on the hair of the ancient Egyptians. Again, we've seen that the hair of the Middle Easterners is long and curly. It's actually reminiscent of what the hair looks like today. And it's the same for the Greeks, and it's the same for Indians and Asians, and lots of people have that hair. But notice how, if we look at this picture on the screen, the little girl has got that child's hairstyle with giant braids. These are like dreadlocks. The woman has also got dreadlock type pattern, and the man has got a short dreadlock like pattern. And so this hairstyle is consistent throughout Egypt from the beginning. You see this hairstyle right in the beginning, and I've shown many statues and many paintings that depict this. The only alternative hairstyle to this that you see is like an afro or like short hair, like cut hair, which you almost never see anywhere else in the world. Like a woman being depicted in that way, where they're like, oh, the woman has short hair. The reason why in Africa it's depicted this way, in Egypt and Africa, is because that's how black women's hair grow. And we all know this. Now, so here's the problem. Why do people go out of their way to say that the ancient Egyptians are not black Africans? Why, in spite of all this evidence, do they say it? It's a couple simple reasons. One, if Egypt is part of the rest of the world, then black Africans have played a big role in the modern civilization. They played a big role in modern religion. They played a big role in modern everything. And it complicates the story. And a lot of people try to get a simple story. These people are less racist and more simple-minded. They don't want to work harder. They want it to be a simple story. That's why they ignore any evidence that says that the languages of the Middle East might be related to sub-Saharan African languages. because it complicates the story. Again, another one is the second one is because if the black Africans were the ancient Egyptians, then there must have been some cultural displacement or some big movement. And they don't want to figure that out. They don't want to sit down and think, when did this happen? How did this happen? They want it to all just make sense from the beginning. The third one is the one that is the most egregious, which is they don't want to give any credit to black Africans for anything. Anything that we create, there'll always be a X next to it going, check for reference. Think about it. Think about how many statues I've shown you right now. Think about how many paintings I've shown you. Think about all the things that I've shown you. Always check for reference. Check for reference. How many times do they ask you to do that with Middle Eastern cultures? And the worst part is they do this knowing that there's some evidence that points to it. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that out of all the DNA around the world, why do you think Egypt is one of the most focused on in the world? It's because they're trying to debunk the black theory. They're trying to get away from it somehow. They're trying to get away from it as fast as they can. And the reason they want to do that is because it will help. And of course, they lie about the DNA. The DNA has never shown that the ancient Egyptians were consistent with the Middle Easterners. In fact, the DNA has just complicated things. It shows some results that seem like they're black Africans, some results that seem like they're archaic man, like they have some DNA that's not that consistent today, some DNA that's consistent with what you'd consider Middle Easterners. It's complicated. Which if it was simple, we'd all just go, okay, well, it's simple, but they don't want to tell you that. Like I showed you with the previous video where I showed Zahi Hawass, he claims that the ancient Egyptians were unique. This is another part of their deception. And everybody knows it. It's like, and the worst part is it's angering. It's not just a calm feeling. If these guys knew that these people were white, just bring out the evidence so we can give up. Take the statues I've shown you, look at them and tell me why they're not as I tell you. Take everything that I've shown you and tell me why are they not as I tell you.